Yeah, I retired as a player partway through the season. It was at a point where I obviously couldn't play anymore, and Detroit wanted me as a third goalie. They had two young goalies come in that year, Greg Steffen and Karata Mikolov, and they just wanted me as insurance. And both young goalies played terrific. They didn't need me as insurance, and so I retired partway through the year. I had people from the automotive business coming to me, wanting to be a manufacturer's rep. I I looked at that a little bit. I started with one company, and then CompuWare came to me and asked me if I'd start a specialized goalie school. And in those days, there weren't very many of them. And so I thought that's fine. You know, they talked about starting this for the first year and getting 20 kids and see where it goes. And so we did. We ended up getting 40 goalies. And Pete Kermanis, the head of CompuWare, he came to the first three practices. He'd come over after the third one, and he said to me, "I really like the way you work. I like your work ethic." And I said, "Thanks," and kind of blew it off, actually, even though he was trying to give me a compliment. And he said, "No, really." He said, "Listen to me." He says, I watch people work. I really like how you work." And I said, "Thanks." So we had a session on Thursday. He didn't come. He came on Friday. It was the Friday of Labor Day. He said, "If you're interested in working for us," he said, "why don't you come and meet me on Tuesday, the day after Labor Day?" I said, "Okay." So in those days, $175,000 was a lot of money. It's a lot of money today, don't get me wrong, but I mean by sports standards, by hockey standards. And that was what I made the last year of playing in the NHL. And so he walked through about my work ethic and getting me started into something new. And he said, "I'd like you to work half in the computer software business in CompuWare and half in the hockey department." And he said, "Be patient with me," because he says, "My goals are bigger than just being in youth hockey. I want to get an OHL franchise. I'd like you to be part of it." And he said, "Together, we'll work together and we'll get an NHL franchise someday." And I said, "Well, that sounds good." And he says, "I want to start you off at $24,000 a year in benefits." And I know in those days that a lot of people would have said, "No, I don't want to do that," based on what I come off of making. And I said, "No, I didn't think about it twice." I said, "Good, fair enough. This is a good opportunity for me." And that's where I started. And, people look at me today like, in my position, I've been a general manager in the NHL almost 30 years, but it didn't just start from the day I ended my NHL career. I went back to the grassroots of hockey, which I would give advice to anybody, and go back to your roots and understand how this game works right from the youth hockey up. And that's what I did. Eventually, it was only a year later we got the OHL team in Windsor. I became the general manager there. We had some success. We won the OHL championship in '88, I think. We went 12-0 through Ontario, never lost a game. Won every game in the Memorial Cup except the most important one, the last one. And we blew a lead. We were ahead 6-4 late in the game and lost 7-6 in regulation. It was heartbreaking, but at that point, Pete Kermanis said, "It's time for you to be the point person and go find an NHL franchise." And it took a few years, but eventually that's where it went. He ended up buying the Hartford Whalers.